They squeezed 5 men inside 30 tons of steel, gave them some gear, and told them to win a war. Most people think a Panzer crew just had a gun and a helmet. They were wrong, spectacularly wrong. If you have ever asked what a real tank crew packed into that cramped iron box, this is the only video you will ever need. 40 items, every one of them real, every one of them used. Stay until the end because item number 40 might surprise even the most serious historians watching right now. We have the iconic black Panzer wrap jacket, and this is the item that made the entire German armored force immediately recognizable. Introduced in 1934, this short, hip-length black wool jacket was deliberately designed to avoid getting caught on equipment inside the cramped tank interior. A longer coat would have been a death trap. It featured a wide lapel, subdued national emblem on the right breast, and the wearer's rank displayed on the collar patches. Practical, distinctive, and frankly one of the most recognized military garments of the entire war. Next, we have the matching black Panzer trousers, which completed the distinctive two-piece black uniform. These were straight-cut, loose-fitting black wool trousers designed for comfort during long hours seated in a cramped vehicle. They featured slash pockets at the front and a watch pocket, and were worn bloused into the ankle boots or tucked cleanly. The full black uniform set was exclusively issued to armored crew vehicles. If you wore black, you were a tanker, and everyone knew it. Let us continue with the padded black crash beret, which was arguably the most practical piece of headgear in the entire German military inventory. This beret featured a large padded interior beret of black wool on the outside, with a thick internal pad designed to protect the crewman's head from the brutal interior of the tank. Steel corners, hatches, and gun breeches had no mercy. It was worn from 1934 through approximately 1940, when it was gradually phased out in favor of other field caps. Short service life, but every crew member who wore it was probably very grateful for that padding on the first day they slammed their head into the breach. Next, we have the black field cap, known as the Einheitsfeldmütze, or side cap, which became the standard everyday cap as the crash beret was phased out. This was a simple, foldable black wool side cap worn tilted to the right side of the head, bearing the national cockade and eagle insignia at the front. It offered no protection whatsoever, unlike the crash beret, but it was lightweight, easy to store, and appropriate for wear outside the vehicle. Basically, the German Army's way of saying, you're off duty, your head is on its own. Let us continue with the M43 field cap, introduced in 1943 as the war entered its grimmer second half. This was a universal pattern field cap adopted across all branches, replacing multiple branch-specific caps with one standardized design featuring a short brim, fold-down side flaps for cold weather, and the national eagle and cockade at the front. Panzer crews received these in black wool, though by late war the color discipline was breaking down and field gray versions were increasingly common. By 1943, the Wehrmacht was standardizing anything they could, simplicity over tradition, because the factories were very busy. Now we have the Stahlhelm, the iconic German steel helmet, model 1935, and its later variants. The Stahlhelm offered 1.2 millimeters of pressed steel protection and was worn by Panzer crews primarily when outside the vehicle, during dismounted actions, vehicle recovery, or loading operations. Inside the tank, it was usually stored due to the already tight space and the crash beret or field cap being more practical alternatives for interior work. It weighed approximately 1.1 kilograms, and its distinctive flared skirt shape has made it one of the most recognized military helmets in history. We have the Schnürschuhe, or low-ankle lace-up boots, which were the standard footwear issued to Panzer crews rather than the tall jack boots of the infantry. The low boot was preferred for tank crews because jack boots were impractical in the cramped floor space of a tank interior and could interfere with pedals and controls. They were manufactured from black leather, had hobnailed leather soles, and were typically worn with short gaiters or with the trousers bloused over them. Practical, sensible, and significantly less dramatic looking than the jack boots, which was probably the last thing anyone worried about in a burning tank. Now that we have the uniform sorted, let's get into the personal equipment every crew member carried on his person. Next, we have the standard German leather service belt, the Koppel, which was the central load-bearing item for all personal equipment. This was a 45mm black leather belt with a rectangular aluminum or steel single-claw buckle bearing the Wehrmacht eagle and the motto, Gott mit uns, God with us. All pouches, holsters, and personal items were attached to this belt, making it the backbone of the individual soldier's personal kit. Simple, effective, and worn by millions, the most ordinary, extraordinary piece of German military equipment in existence. Let us continue with the Soldbuch, the military paybook, which was the single most important personal document a German soldier carried at all times. This small booklet served simultaneously as a pay record, identity document, medical record, equipment issue record, and service history. Essentially, the entire paper life of a soldier in one document. It was approximately 10 by 14 centimeters, contained a photograph, physical description, and was updated with every posting, promotion, wound, or equipment issue throughout a soldier's service. Losing your Soldbuch was a serious offense, and being found without one by military police was a very uncomfortable experience. We have the Erkennungsmarker, the German military identification disc, equivalent to the Allied dog tag. This was an oval zinc or aluminum disc, approximately 50 millimeters long, stamped with the soldier's blood group, unit designation, and service number, designed to be broken in half at the groove around the middle. In the event of death, one half stayed with the body for burial records, while the other was taken for casualty reporting, a brutally efficient system. The disc was worn on a cord around the neck and rarely left the body, which, given the nature of armored warfare, was a tragically practical decision. Next, we have the Walther P38, which became the standard German service pistol from 1940 onward, replacing the legendary but expensive Luger. This was a 9mm semi-automatic pistol with an 8-round detachable box magazine, featuring a double-action trigger mechanism, meaning it could be fired from a decocked, hammer-down safe position, a significant advancement over its predecessor. For Panzer crews, the pistol was the primary personal defense weapon, since long arms were awkward inside a vehicle, and the pistol could be drawn and used quickly in close quarters. The P38 was well regarded for its reliability and was produced in enormous quantities. Approximately 1 million were manufactured during the war. Let us continue with the Luger P08, the iconic predecessor to the P38, that remained in widespread service throughout the entire war despite official replacement. The Luger was a 9mm semi-automatic pistol with an 8-round detachable magazine, famous for its distinctive toggle lock action and ergonomic grip angle that pointed naturally when raised. Manufactured to extremely high pre-war tolerances, the Luger was expensive and time-consuming to produce. By 1942, the Army had largely transitioned to the P38, but existing stocks remained in service. If you encountered a German officer carrying a Luger, it was either a pre-war example or a very proud man, and Allied soldiers collected them aggressively. We have the standard-issue leather pistol holster, which varied slightly depending on whether the crew member carried a P38 or a Luger. The holster was constructed from black leather, worn on the right side of the service belt, and typically included a cleaning rod pouch on the front flap for the P08 variant. The P38 holster was simpler in construction, reflecting the pistol's more modern and less fussy design, and both versions featured a flap secured by a strap and snap. A holster without a pistol was technically just a leather accessory, but no sensible Panzer crewman was going to be caught in that situation. Next, we have the MP40, arguably the most recognized German infantry weapon of the entire war, and a common secondary weapon for tank commanders and loader positions. The MP40 was a 9mm open-bloat blowback submachine gun firing from a 32-round detachable box magazine at approximately 500 rounds per minute, with an effective range of around 100 meters. Its folding metal stock made it compact enough for vehicle storage and convenient use in confined spaces, qualities that made it particularly suited to armored vehicle crews. Despite what countless films suggest, it was not issued to every German soldier. It was primarily a specialized weapon for vehicle crews, paratroopers, and NCOs.
Let us continue with the MP-38, the direct predecessor to the MP-40 and the weapon that established the design template. The MP-38 was mechanically very similar to its successor, but featured a machined aluminum receiver instead of the stamped steel components that made the MP-40 cheaper to produce, which explains why the Army switched. Both weapons used the same 32-round magazine and fired the same 9mm cartridge, making logistics compatible between them in the field. Recognizable by its lack of a horizontal slot in the magazine housing, a feature added to the MP-40, the 38 was a slightly more refined but significantly more expensive weapon. We have 9x19mm parabellum ammunition, the universal cartridge feeding the Luger, the P-38, and both the MP-38 and MP-40, a logistically elegant standardization. Standard German 9mm ball ammunition used a full metal jacket bullet weighing approximately 8 grams, with a muzzle velocity of around 380 meters per second from pistol-length barrels. Ammunition was typically carried in pistol magazine pouches on the belt and in spare magazines stored on the vehicle, with crew members typically issued 2 to 4 spare magazines depending on their role. One cartridge feeding 4 weapons was the kind of supply chain decision that made quartermasters happy and tankers slightly less dead. Next, we have the Karabiner 98K, Germany's standard bolt-action service rifle and the backbone of the entire land forces, even for vehicle crews who carried it for dismounted operations. The Karabiner 98K was a 5-round internal magazine bolt-action rifle chambered in 7.92 by 57 millimeters, with an effective range exceeding 500 meters and a total length of 1.1 meters. Panzer crews stored the rifle clipped inside the tank on purpose-built brackets and would use it if they had to dismount and fight on foot, which happened more than planners had hoped. 5 rounds, bolt action, and 7.92 millimeters in a world increasingly full of faster-firing weapons. But it was accurate, robust, and in the hands of a trained soldier, deeply effective. We have the Stiel-Handgranate M24, better known to every Allied soldier as the potato masher, the distinctive long-handled German stick grenade. The M24 consisted of a thin sheet steel cylindrical explosive head containing approximately 170 grams of TNT-based filling, mounted on a hollow wooden handle that contained the friction igniter pull cord. To arm it, the thrower unscrewed the base cap, pulled the porcelain bead on the cord, and had 4 to 5 seconds to throw. It did not require pin removal like Allied grenades, which was an important operational difference. The long handle provided leverage for throwing distance rather than fragmentation effect. The M24 was primarily a concussion weapon, not a fragmentation device.
We have the E-Heingranate M39, the compact egg-shaped German offensive grenade that served alongside the stick grenade throughout the war. The M39 was a small oval grenade containing approximately 112 grams of explosive filler with a friction-based igniter in the base, identical in ignition concept to the stick grenade. Its significantly smaller size made it significantly easier to store inside a vehicle than the bulky stick grenade, and multiple egg grenades could be carried in a bread bag without difficulty. Think of it as the stick grenade's smaller, less theatrical sibling, less satisfying to throw, but considerably easier to fit in your pocket. Next, we have the Leuchtpistole, the 27mm single-shot signal pistol, which was a standard vehicle crew item for communication and signaling purposes. This was a break-action, single-shot pistol firing a large-caliber flare cartridge in various colors, red, green, white, and yellow, each with a specific tactical meaning for unit identification, calling for support, or marking positions. For Panzer crews, the signal pistol was essential for communicating with aircraft, headquarters, and adjacent units when radio communication was unavailable or compromised. It was also used to destroy sensitive equipment, making it one of the more versatile items on this entire list. We have the Bordverständigungsanlage headset, the tank crew intercom headphones, which were essential equipment for every single crew member inside the vehicle. These were large, heavily padded over-ear headphones designed to attenuate the extraordinary noise levels inside a tank. Engine, gun, tracks, and explosions created an environment where unaided voice communication was nearly impossible. They were connected to the vehicle's intercom system, allowing the 5-man crew to communicate internally without shouting, and allowed the commander to receive radio transmissions from outside the vehicle. Without these, coordinating 5 people in a sealed metal box going into combat would have been significantly more chaotic than it already was. We have the Kehlkopf microphone, or throat microphone, worn tight against the throat to pick up vibrations directly from the vocal cords rather than from airborne sound waves. This was a 2-transducer microphone worn on a neck strap pressed against the larynx, connected to the intercom and radio systems, allowing the crew member to speak clearly even in the extreme noise environment of a moving, firing tank. Because it detected physical vibration rather than sound, it was extremely effective at rejecting background noise, a significant practical advantage over conventional microphones in a combat vehicle. It looks uncomfortable, and it probably was, but in a tank interior at full power, the alternative was simply not being understood at all. Next, we have the vehicle intercom cable, the physical connection linking each crew member's headset and throat microphone to the vehicle's central intercom junction box. These were rubberized or cloth-shielded cables with standardized connector plugs routed through the vehicle interior to allow crew members to remain plugged in at their stations while having some freedom of movement. The cables were designed to be robust enough to survive the harsh conditions of the vehicle interior, heat, vibration, and the constant physical abuse of combat operations. The humble intercom cable is not glamorous, but without it, the sophisticated radio and communication systems of the German armored force would have been largely useless. Let us continue with the Dienstglas 6x30 binoculars, the standard German military optical instrument and one of the most important individual items a Panzer commander or officer carried. These were 6-power, 30mm objective binoculars with a field of view of approximately 140 meters at 1,000 meters distance, produced by German optical firms including Zeiss, Leitz, and Hensoldt to extremely high optical standards. For Panzer crews, binoculars were essential for terrain assessment, target identification at range, and coordination with other vehicles and infantry, tasks that required optics beyond the vehicle's inbuilt periscopes and gun sights. German optical technology in this period was among the best in the world, and these binoculars reflected that standard precisely. We have the Kartentasche, the standard German military map case, a rigid or semi-rigid leather or artificial leather document case for carrying and protecting maps and operational orders. The map case typically measured approximately 25 by 35 centimeters, featured a transparent acetate window on the front panel, allowing maps to be read without removal, and carried a compass holder or pencil pocket in the flap. For Panzer commanders and vehicle commanders, the map case was a constant companion. Armored operations required continuous navigation across unfamiliar terrain at speed, often without time to stop and unfold a full map sheet. The transparent front window was a particularly practical feature. It let the officer read the map in rain, mud, and other conditions that would have destroyed an unprotected paper document in minutes. Let us continue with the military compass, the Marschkompass, which provided the fundamental navigation reference when landmarks, maps, or visibility were insufficient. The standard German military compass was a brass-cased, liquid-filled magnetic compass with a rotating bezel for bearing measurement, typically carried in a leather case that attached to the belt or map case. For Panzer crews operating cross-country, particularly in featureless terrain like the Russian steppe or the North African desert, a compass was an essential survival tool independent of any map. Finding your way back to friendly lines in a damaged tank with no radio across 100 kilometers of hostile steppe was exactly the kind of problem a compass was designed to solve. We have the Feldflasche, the standard German 1-liter aluminum field canteen with a felt cover. It had a kidney-shaped body, a threaded cap, and usually a cup fitted over the base. For Panzer crews, that small liter of water was critical, especially inside a hot tank where conditions could become brutal. Next we have the Brotbeutel, the German canvas bread bag used for far more than bread. It carried daily rations, utensils, small personal items, and sometimes extra ammunition or grenades. By the middle of the war, what went inside depended heavily on supply, and German supply was not exactly famous for generosity in Russia. Let us continue with the Kochgewehr, the standard German aluminum mess kit. It was an oval container with a removable lid that also worked as a shallow pan. For Panzer crews, it was used during halts and overnight stops because hot food in the field was a serious morale booster. We have the German gas mask, carried in its corrugated steel canister. The mask protected against chemical agents such as mustard gas, chlorine, and phosgene. As the war went on without chemical warfare, many soldiers left the mask in the vehicle or used the canister for storage, which was practical but not exactly regulation-friendly. Next we have the Taschenlampe, the German military angled flashlight. Its L-shaped design allowed it to clip to the uniform and shine downward for hands-free use. For Panzer crews, it was essential for night maintenance, map reading, vehicle checks, and not pretending they could repair a tank in total darkness. Let us continue with the leather or wool gloves, a small item with major importance for Panzer crews. Leather gloves protected hands from hot gun parts, shell casings, and engine components. In winter, wool or leather wool gloves helped prevent frostbite during inspections, guard duty, and outside repairs. We have the Schutzbrille, the protective goggles used by Panzer crewmen. They usually had large round lenses, a leather or rubber frame, and an adjustable strap. They protected the eyes from dust, wind, debris, and the fine dirt thrown up by tracked vehicles during open hatch movement.